Good afternoon, philosophers. You are listening to Philosophy Club Radio Hour, brought to you by Richland College. You are listening to KDOX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We are the voice of Richland College. Views expressed on the show are our own and not, unless otherwise stated, and do not reflect the opinion of KDOX Web Radio, Richland College, or the DCCCD. Today's topic is concerning the terrible things that have happened in Sri Lanka and New Zealand and just all across the world, which are basically acts of terror, and just the response of people to these tragedies, and how interesting it is to see how people react to different circumstances. Yeah, that's basically it. And I was not actually at the Philosophy Club on Tuesday, so I'm going to let Cameron do a quick recap.
I think we should just jump right in.
I think you're right. Go for it. You want to start us off?
Because it was too complicated.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
I guess I don't even know where to start.
Okay, so I guess we should start by
recap the event.
Yeah,
and then we'll discuss from there.
Yeah, I think so. So in New Zealand,
I can explain it now.
Please go ahead. Yeah, please.
Got that fire burning.
Go for it, girl.
Okay, that's not funny. Nothing about this is funny. So what was that, a month ago?
With New Zealand?
No, it had to be more than a month.
I think it was a month or two.
Yeah, a month or two.
Two-ish. Continue.
Oh man, this is finna. Okay,
go for it.
So this white guy, I think he was from like Australia. He wasn't even from New Zealand, was he?
No.
He came in to a mosque during a time of like prayer, and killed, I believe, 50 or was it 60?
You know what? I can look it up right now.
The original, it rose by one. Like, someone died later. And so it made it, like, either 50 or 60, but I can't remember.
Yeah, let me look here. Terrorism in New Zealand. Okay, that's not helping.
This is awkward.
Christchurch mosque shooting. Yeah.
I want to say 60, but I think that's wrong.
I'm not sure. The 50 people killed.
It's 50, okay.
Yeah.
And so then, like, in retaliation, about maybe a month later after that, Islamic terrorists bombed a bunch of churches, hotels in Sri Lanka and killed about 390 or so people.
It was a really high number.
And it's the irony in that situation is that a group that had been persecuted goes and persecutes another group. Oh, okay. So, then what makes it even worse is people's response. So a lot of people responded to what happened in New Zealand, but not too many people responded to what happened in Sri Lanka, which is understandable. No, it's not understandable. I take that back. Can we start over?
Yeah, sure.
Start over. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Okay, so we'll tell Jack to start it at 6.30. Good afternoon, and welcome to Philosophy Club Radio Hour. You are listening to KDOX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We are the voice of Richland College. Views expressed on the show are our own unless otherwise stated, and do not reflect the opinion of KDOX Web Radio, Richland College, or the DCCCD. Today's topic is concerning Sri Lanka and New Zealand and the terrible things that happened there, and pretty much people's response to those acts of terror. So for everyone that doesn't know, which I doubt that anyone doesn't know, but just to recap, in New Zealand a couple months ago, a white man went into a mosque and shot and killed about 50 people and I believe wounded about 39 more. if I'm not mistaken. And then not too long ago, a couple weeks ago actually, in Sri Lanka, ISIS attacked, it was ISIS, right?
Some Islamic
group. It was an Islamic terrorist group. They bombed several different churches and killed about 300 people.
And injured, I think, about maybe 800 more, because the total people affected, I think, was close to 1,000.
Yeah, which is really, really heartbreaking. So what struck us as odd was the amount of people that responded to both things, right? So as soon as New Zealand's, as soon as the terror happened in New Zealand, everybody was on social media about it. They were commenting, they were saying, you know, we stand with you, all this other stuff. But I actually did not hear about Sri Lanka until almost 2 days after the fact. Which I found really odd.
It was also upsetting because what happened in Sri Lanka happened Easter Sunday, which for Christians and a lot of other religions is one of the most holiest of days. So not only were they attacked in a place of worship, but they were attacked in their place of worship on the most holiest of days.
Right, and both acts of terror did occur in houses of worship, which that's heartbreaking to me because, you know, it should be a place where you can be safe. Even what happened, I think it was actually this week in California, where a teenager went and shot up a synagogue and killed 3 people, one of which was the rabbi, I believe. Which is really, again, heartbreaking that they target these places where people are the most vulnerable.
I totally get that, and I agree. And I'm speaking from my position as a Christian. It's completely, because I will always say it takes a lot for a person to go and kill someone else. It takes another type of person to go in and kill someone in their place of worship. Because those are sacred places. And not only are you doing an evil deed, but you're doing an evil deed in a place in which no evil deed should be occurring. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so for me, I will always put, like, there's a difference in someone that goes and robs a store, and then there's a difference between someone who goes and robs a church.
Yeah.
Just like, really, though?
Yeah.
And I will say this, for a good while, for my knowledge, watching the news, these people that are, like, committing these crimes, it's no different than any other crimes. But when they go and attack a church, I feel like that's it's in a large number because we're magnifying it. But I think it's not to the extent like it's a regular occurrence. It's a regular occurrence in our mind because it's at the forefront and we see it when it happens. But to some degree, it's not. You know, people are not as comfortable. They still have boundaries. Right. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
It's like these people that are doing it, there are these extreme rare cases. Like, they're crazy. There's no other way to explain it except they're crazy.
Yeah.
But it's still not to the point that people are still like, if I wanted to go rob a place, the first place I'm going to put down is church. Right. Or a synagogue or a mosque. Like, you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It's like these are happening, but to some degree, there's still some type of, you know, if I'm going to commit a crime, that should be the last place on my list.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't know what my point was with that. But I guess I was trying to say, like, it's horrible that, I think it's, like I said, it's so horrible that it's happening in these places that should feel safe, and they don't feel safe. And also just people's response. I think the most disrespectful thing you can do is ignore an entire group of people just because they don't fit your agenda. And that's how it felt, you know, like you're not that. And I hate to bring up like death toll because I think any loss of life is serious. Yeah. But when you publicize 50 people getting killed and you ignore 390 or so people being bombed and you say nothing, I question your morality as a person.
Yeah.
It's like, really though? Or it's like people that grieve more for a dog than a human.
Right.
It's not saying that dog doesn't have any special place in your heart. It's just like, really?
Yeah, no,
really
you're
though?
right. Yeah.
That's where you want to put your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when you look at, like, I think more for me, it was more of like these elected officials, especially Democrats, and the fact that people like Alexandria Cortez, who speaks on these issues of what's the word I want to use? She's like a hardcore socialist, and to not say anything and something this tragic, it's not only disrespectful, but it's mind-boggling, because this seems like something she would have been concerned with. It seems like this fits her agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And not only her, but a lot of people didn't say anything. And to make it even more ironic is they're not saying anything, but the president of the United States, the man that they look to condemn every single day, is saying, hey, we send our prayers. And I mean, that's part of his job as well. Mm-hmm. But if we have seen his track record and how he does his job, the irony is that he's speaking out when the people that we put our trust in and have elected because we feel they have our best interest at heart isn't saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's disgusting.
Yeah, it's not right.
It's like,
sure.
Why is Satan on my side? It's like, oh, it's like you want help, but that's not the help you want.
Right.
It's like it's so ironic. You don't have anything to say.
Not really. No. It's heartbreaking, honestly.
It's heartbreaking and it's irritating.
Yeah.
It's like, and for me, it feels like, because people, I think we're at a point now where we really just don't like Christians, just honestly. And I hate to put that narrative out there, because honestly, I can't speak for other people. I can't tell why they've made the decisions that they have. Mm-hmm. But for me, that's how it feels. It's like you're not going to speak out on it because it's not a group you necessarily, you concern yourself with. They're not the minority. When you think of America, you think of a Christian nation.
Yeah.
Even though we don't have one religion, one universal religion is considered a Christian nation.
Yeah.
And when you look at things like slavery has been justified by Christianity. And Christianity has had its share of, warped people that have inflicted immense pain.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's one of those instances where it's like no one's really saying anything. I'm going to use a really horrible analogy, so bear with me.
Sure.
It's like a black person going in and killing a bunch of racists. How many of us would be upset?
Right.
And that's really harsh.
Yeah.
But I don't know how else to explain it. It's kind of like people have this look of Christians as though our religion is surrounded by speaking hate and not accepting people. Mm-hmm. Most people, when they think of Christians, they assume that all Christians are against the LGBTQ community and we're against things like welfare and a socialist state, but that's not true. With every group, you have good people and you have bad people, and for a lot of instances, the bad people are the ones that speak typically for the entire group or organization.
Right, and they give a bad name to the entire thing. Yeah,
and it's kind of like, I don't really know how else to say it, because I don't want to be harsh, and I'm not trying to speak for other people. Their intentions may have not been malicious, but what it says by not speaking out, especially because you're talking about wanting to make worship place where people go and worship, you want to make it safe. Mm-hmm. These people, as Christians, their place of sanctity was violated.
Yeah. And
you're not saying anything. So why are they any different? The only thing I can think of is that they're Christians. Because you can't say that, it happened out of state or it happened out of this country, so we're not really concerned about the issues that happen overseas, but we spoke about New Zealand.
Right.
That happened overseas. So we can't use the excuse of, what happens in another country is their problem. Because we've spoke on issues in other countries.
All right, well, here's the dissonance for me then. So if we are, technically speaking, a Christian nation, why would Christians not support their own? That I don't understand. You see
A
what
lot
I'm
of people
saying
aren't
here?
Christians.
That's true. But I know more Christians than anybody else. I mean,
A
not
lot of
more
Democrats,
Christians
I
than-
don't think, consider themselves Christians.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Mm-mm. If you think about it, because this is the thing. You can say you're a Christian. That doesn't mean, it's just like with any religion, you don't have to be an Orthodox Christian.
Right.
You can say you believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that makes you a Christian, it makes you a Christian by like default.
Okay.
Because it's like you believe in God, so you're a Christian. That doesn't mean you stand with everything that it is. Because I told you, Bernie Sanders is Jewish.
Right.
He doesn't practice it.
No.
But he still says he believes in God. Whatever that means. It's like, it's weird. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those instances where it's like they don't practice the faith, they don't practice the religion, but they believe in God.
Yeah.
They're in a category by themselves.
Isn't there a label for that? I feel like there is.
There probably is. So it's like, from my knowledge, not too many people speak on their faith, Democrat-wise, that I can think of. I think that's a more Republican thing. I think Democrats try to separate themselves from faith because this whole notion of separation of church and state and, what is it? You totally made me lose my train of thought. No, like this whole idea of like separation of church and state, and they feel you can be more open because to a lot of people, religion is restricting.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't allow you to be your full autonomous self.
Right.
It's actually the opposite. Republicans are more. There's more. You can find more people that identify as Christian in the Republican Party than you can the Democratic Party.
Right.
You would probably find actually probably a lot more agnostic and atheists in the Democratic Party because they feel like it doesn't restrict you.
Right.
If you think about Christianity, the biggest problem, like I said, is the LGBTQ community and how people feel about that. Well, if you don't read the Bible, you don't go to church, that's not an issue for you. And if you think about how we're talking about gender and gender fluidity and all these other things, it works best if you don't have a religion.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, I would say we're more of an atheist country than a Christian country or any specific religion.
No, we have no, but like it's more like we were
founded
on Christian ideology.
Yeah.
But if you think about that too, the people that founded this country would be more represented by more defined as Republicans in this society.
True. Yeah.
So think about like Ted Cruz and things like that. You hear about them going to church. You don't hear about that for Democrats. You may find one every now and then, but even the Democrats that you do find that associate with religion aren't orthodox. They don't follow it to a T.
Right.
They pick certain parts of it. That's why I'm like, they're like, I believe in God. They don't put a label.
A lot of Jews identify as Democrats, and they are very religious. So that's
Okay, I will say this: the people that are religious and Democrat are not necessarily Christian.
okay. Huh.
Although you can find some. Let me put it like this: the more progressive Democrats.
Okay.
Because I can speak for the black community. The black community is typically Democrat, and they're Christians.
Right.
But they you always have your outliers.
Yeah. Welcome, Trace. Which mic are you on? 5.
That's why they're more conservative.
Hmm?
That's why Republicans are more conservative. They hold to those religious beliefs.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Okay.
We can look it up. Let's look it up.
All right.
Are Democrats less religious?
Let's see what Google has to say about this.
But you also have to think about like why Jewish people and like Muslims would gravitate towards the Democratic Party. Muslims, because as more of like an ethnic religion, they would do better being Democrats than they would Republicans. We're talking about, wait, what? What are you confused on?
That's not even working.
Okay.
There we go.
They're like, okay, so they're a minority group.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And typically people that are like Muslim are not, they can be white, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
You can have anybody that, so they're like, okay, so you can be Muslim and you can be black. You're not only like, so that's not only a minority in your religion, you're a minority as well by your ethnicity.
Oh, I understand.
The majority of registered Democratic voters are religious, says Elizabeth Siupak, a researcher associate at Pew. Among Catholics, Latinos are a growing force in the Democratic Party, while white Catholics are drifting toward the Republican Party. The Democratic Party is becoming somewhat less white, and a lot of the religion problem is among white voters.
Okay, so I'll say this. Let me rephrase what I'm saying.
Okay.
White Christians. Okay, because if you look, okay, so you can be religious. Like I said, there's plenty of Democrats in the black community, and a lot of them are religious. But their struggle is going to outweigh how they interpret their religion.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're not going to necessarily follow it. I'm not going to say to a T, because the way that anybody interpret it could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way they follow is going to be different than someone who's white, because their struggle is also an essence of their being.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have the same belief. So they're going to follow Christianity differently, just because of being black and just being a minority. So most people that are religious, even like you just said it, like they're Latino,
Mm-hmm.
and they're Catholic and they're religious. But what do we have an issue with? We have an issue with like immigration, and we have other issues plaguing the Latino community. So their way they're going to interpret Christianity is going to be different. It's not going to be the same. Whereas if like you're white and you're Christian, you can use that a little bit more to your advantage, because your problems are not necessarily the problems of minorities.
I don't know if that always affects the way you practice religion. I mean, maybe in
You won't be
in
as strict.
particulars.
You won't be as strict. See, you can, okay, so like, okay.
What do you mean? I just think that's kind of a broad.
Okay, so what I mean, so in Christianity, the thing that most people get upset about is the whole like verse in Leviticus that says like man should be with woman, and you know it's an abomination to God. Mm-hmm. If you take that, the LGBT community can be considered a minority group. They are a minority group.
Right.
They are not going to practice Christianity the way that people who are not LGBTQ affiliated or have any members that are impacted by it, they're not going to practice it the same way. They're not going to take that verse to be like the God honest truth. I mean, they could, but if they're looking to uplift their identity and be their true self, they're not going to look at that verse the same way.
Okay, so the whole argument of Christians anyway is that when Jesus came, he did away with the Old Testament, right? He did away with the Torah, though. So really, that's how I've heard it.
There's multiple.
No, we read from the Old Testament.
No, I know you read it, but like he says, you know,
Our
it
whole
has
religion
been
is-
said as of old, you know, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, love your enemy, right?
Well, it's basically like
the whole base-
he didn't get rid of the law. I mean, he says in Matthew, I think.
Yeah.
I
he
can
came not
say
to
this
abolish the
because we
law.
just talked about Christianity and my philosophy. The whole basis of Christianity, the only like, it has like some of the same principles as Judaism. It originated out of Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is who we believe as God.
Mm-hmm.
For us, is Jesus.
Well, to Hannah's point, though, like, yes, we don't practice the ceremonial law.
Okay.
But Christians look at the Old Testament law as having multiple parts, if you will. like the moral law. Wait, let me grab my phone really quick. Hold on.
Sure. No, because like the point being was like that's why Christians don't eat kosher, right? Because Jesus did away with that, so now we don't have to keep kosher or celebrate the Sabbath.
It's also because he extended it to like what I would be considered a Gentile because I'm not Jewish.
Right.
So he opened the doors for like everyone, so like anybody could be Christian.
So there's the moral, the civil, and the ceremonial law,
right?
Which is the law of the Old Testament. So when Jesus says that he's not abolishing the law, he means, he's not abolishing the moral law. The ceremonial law was something, and I don't know all the details on this, but I think it was essentially something to divide or to separate the Jews from the rest of the world and mark them as God's chosen people.
Mm-hmm.
But that was no longer necessary afterwards. Only the moral law.
The whole thing, like
something along those
so,
lines.
like you know how like in the Catholic Church you have to go through like a priest.
Yeah.
You don't do that in Christianity.
Right.
You can pray straight to God.
Right.
You don't need.
Catholicism is Christianity.
No, it is Christianity, but it's a branch of Christianity.
Yeah.
Most Christians. It's most weird because like most people would say they're either Catholic or Christian.
Right.
But Catholic is a branch of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think Christianity, you think Jesus and...
Yeah.
It's weird. They're the same thing essentially. It's just it's different because like okay, so you would go to a priest. You don't go to a priest.
Right.
You don't have to like go to confessional or anything. Mm-hmm. You can repent on your own.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. It's like so like there's like this verse and like you know like when Jesus dies like that like the veil thing or something is split. Mm-hmm. That means you can like you're now there's no intermediary. Like you can do it yourself.
I thought that Jesus was the intermediary.
Like as far as like a priest.
Okay.
You don't need someone of like a religious background.
Right.
You had to have someone of a religious background to like communicate with God.
Okay.
You don't need that. I myself can do that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I don't need to be of like anybody can do it.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing.
That's interesting. Okay.
I mean, it's like that's very dumbed down and simple.
Right.
But if you okay, so you know how like where the Ark of the Covenant was.
Catholics can pray directly to God.
But like as far as like confessional.
Right, as far as confession, they need someone to absolve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many different. It's mainly, I guess, what you could call doctrine or dogma for. For all Christians, which Catholic and Protestant, it's like the crucifixion and the resurrection and the central events, I guess you could say. It's on doctrine or dogma or interpretation of those events that they mainly defer. Like Cameron said, confession or the host. Like for Protestants, it's communion, and that it's like it doesn't become the body and blood of Jesus Christ, the bread and wine. For Catholics, it does. You can talk about, intermediary. You need a priest to absolve you. For Protestants, Jesus fills the role of prophet, priest, and king. Those are like the three doctrinal roles.
I just meant like
things like
you
that.
Didn't need a human like intermediary. You didn't need like someone of like a priest.
But isn't in some ways Jesus human? Right?
Yeah, he's fully human.
He's fully human, but he's not
and
here.
Fully God.
But I'm saying like he's not here.
Right. Okay.
But he does have a.
So do you pray to Jesus or do you pray to God?
I consider Jesus and God the same thing.
Jesus is God.
Okay.
They're not different.
Okay.
That's why some people argue that Christianity is a polytheistic tradition, but for a lot of like some Christians, if you talk to them, in my opinion, a majority of them would tell you it's monotheistic. God and Jesus it's interchangeable. I can say God, but in the same sense, I mean Jesus.
Right. Okay. Huh. All right. That makes sense.
It's very, very
because
confusing. Because
Jesus is God in human form.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, he's fully God and fully man, so he has a physical location, but he's also has all the attributes of God.
So
it's
from my understanding,
confusing.
so he's human as far as like like bodily flesh.
As being full. No, he's like fully human.
He didn't sin though.
Correct.
That makes him divine.
Does that make him? I'm not sure, because if you look at both Judaism and Christianity, man was created perfect. So
But I'm saying
according to Judaism and Christianity, to be fully man is to be a true man. Like in God, we're like both Judaism and Christianity talk about how man is made in the image of God.
Mm-hmm.
So to be fully man, then that means to be perfect, like Adam and Eve, who are made in the image of God.
My understanding is like
sin does not define our humanity. For both Judaism and Christianity, it's
that's the thing,
imago
that's
Dei that defines the humanity, the image of God.
I feel like I was taught differently.
Really?
Yeah. Because it's like, for me, he's fully human, like you said. In the way as far as like in his presence.
Mm-hmm.
But he's God. I just don't really.
But in order to relate to the common man, he had to become
He had
fully
to-
human.
he
He
had
had to
to
be
become-
tempted. He had to be
But he didn't give into it.
right. Okay, so this is kind of like the Jewish idea of Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer HaTov. So the Yetzer Hara is like, so like the cartoons where they have the main character will have the little devil on his left shoulder and the little angel on his right shoulder, and they're like whispering in his ears and telling him, "Oh, you should do this, you shouldn't do this." It's kind of that idea. So, but Judaism takes it a step further and says that they both work for God. So, there was this story that was created to sort of illustrate the point. And this king hired a prostitute to seduce his son because he wanted to see if his son was fit to take over the kingdom. And the prostitute knew this whole plan, right? She knew that if the son succeeded in not being seduced by her, then he would rule the kingdom, right? So, like, deep down, she wanted him to succeed. She wanted him to be able to transcend that human nature and become a better version of himself, more or less, right? So the same thing could be said for the Yetzer Hara, which is in English.
Don't look at me.
I
I have very little Hebrew.
Yetzer Hara.
The evil inclination.
Thank you. Yes, the evil inclination. So it's said that the evil inclination works for God, and deep down it wants you to succeed. Deep down it so wants you to succeed, but its job is to tempt you. Its job is to say you should do this, or you're not doing this, or just to.
I can speak on that.
Go for it.
As a Christian, what I was taught, and like, look, there's so many, from like the PowerPoint.
Wait, just real quick.
Mm-hmm.
How did we get here from Sri Lanka?
No idea.
Okay.
No, I think we were talking.
Continue. Rolling with it.
It's just we're just rolling with it. I was gonna say, like, there's thousands, like there's branches of Christianity, so
Yeah.
like no one's gonna.
Well, there's branches of Judaism too,
there's, like,
so it's.
But it's like you could be Methodist, and then you have your United Methodist, and it's like the littlest thing. It could be the littlest thing, and how they change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For instance, like I'm Presbyterian, and we have PCA, Presbyterian Church in America, and PCUSA, Presbyterian Church in the United States of America. And
Difference.
they
be practicing different things.
Yeah, like one allows female ministers, one does not, and that's actually about the only difference I can think of off the top of my head. Actually, one is more liberal than the other when it comes to things like homosexuality and stuff like that.
And then I think for like when I was younger, I went to like
there's so many.
I went to an Episcopal, and I think like church, and it was also Methodist or something weird like that. It gets complicated. It gets complicated.
No.
But like my point of that was, what were we talking about? Oh, I said I know how to relate that back. I was taught that. Okay, so everyone knows who Lucifer is, right?
Yes.
He's the cat in Cinderella.
Beelzebub.
I have a theory about that, but we're not going to go into that. About how the cat is called Lucifer and he's nothing but trouble.
Yeah.
So
Continue.
Lucifer is like devil, Satan, whatever you want to call him. That's his
Fallen angel.
Yeah. So Lucifer, like you
up,
said, is a fallen angel.
Right.
He's
He's
gonna
gonna
walk
come
in
in
and
and
he's
be
gonna be
like,
like, "What?" But
I was about to say something else, but I can't.
I
say
do
it on
have
the radio.
something to add all as well. So go ahead.
Hi, we're talking about different denominations within Christianity and Judaism. We have no idea how we got here.
I don't even remember. But
Sexy topic.
I was taught that Lucifer can only do as much as God allows him to do.
So, like in the book of Job, right, where he says, "I want to tempt him
one
and
doesn't
see
work.
how
You can
far
share this.
I can take it." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but God didn't only let him go so far. Jeez, I don't know how Job was like still happy at
It's
the end
a
of the
weird.
book.
It's a weird thing
book.
because it's like God is divine, so like anytime he could step in.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I say he's only allowed to do as much as God allows him to do, it's because God is more powerful than Lucifer.
Right, exactly.
Probably.
That's what it looks like.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yes, yes.
We're talking about hacking.
I'm sorry. I just
we're
hacked
almost-
into the
we're
conversation.
We're almost out of
Welcome,
time, but I do
Professor
have
Minty.
one thing to add.
Go for it.
Okay, so
That's okay. I can introduce myself.
I did, dude.
So as Jews, we believe in the concept of souls, and so a soul is like our divine essence, is our divine spark of God. And so in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of Jewish people, when it says we're made in the image of God,
Right.
where our soul is created in the image of God, not these human bodies. These are just the vessels that our soul resides in. It's like, so God
That's
doesn't look like a
interesting.
ginormous human sitting up in heaven. And so now a lot of Jews don't believe in the New Testament, right? But
Right.
applying that belief to the New Testament, I would say that, like to what y'all were saying earlier about God and Jesus being the same thing, which I agree with that. I think that God is a soul, and so the soul resided in
The form
the
of
form
Yeah.
of a human.
Okay. That's
Okay,
interesting.
I also want to say, were you done? I'm sorry, that was rude.
That's basically.
I also want to say when we say like in the image of God, I think like it's not. I don't want to say it's not literally, but it's like you're made in the image of God, and then like when you take what happened in like the Garden of Eden, that messed that whole.
Well, it's like
thing
the
up.
whole mirror analogy again, right? God is like a mirror, and that mirror is shattered, and there's pieces of God that fall into us, and we reflect Him. We reflect His essence.
That's,
But we're not God.
7 years bad luck.
Oh, yeah.
What?
We're talking about superstition, right?
Yeah.
No.
Isn't that the
Very
topic of today's podcast?
superstitious.
Oh, my bad.
Superstition.
Oh, religion.
I'm
I'm sorry. Big difference. Big difference there. I'm sorry.
Superstition is.
You guys were saying?
Way to go, Manzi. Getting us off our game.
What was I saying?
Here, baby, you grew up Catholic, right, Manzi? Was that your...
How did you know that?
Just throw him under the bus.
No, we were just talking. We were talking
We
about
Googled it.
Christianity versus Catholicism and how some of us think it's the same thing, some of it's different. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there's nothing I'd like better than to dredge up my past publicly and unexpectedly. I'm just joking. I'm joking. I was raised Roman Catholic. Again, I come from a predominantly traditional Italian family, and so yeah, we all drank the cola, the RC cola. Roman Catholic, RC cola. Some religions you drink the Kool-Aid. We drank the cola. Yeah, I think I think there's definitely a difference. I hate this damn place. There's definitely a difference between maybe that's God communicating with me right now, saying you're going too far.
Exactly. Stop
Possible.
before you ruin yourself.
I literally just I'm so tense. I'm squeezing this mic so hard it just busted. No, we gotta find where that thing went. This thing is about to fall.
Oh my God! Literally.
So I would say this. Yeah, there are absolutely key distinctions between Roman, especially doctrinal Roman Catholicism specifically, and then Christianity in general, for sure. You could say that, and again, there's a lot of differences, honestly, or distinctions, we could say. But relative to what you guys were just talking about, I mean, yeah. yeah, I like Matt's point about God being a soul and the mirror analogy. But for Roman Catholics, I mean, Jesus was the body. I mean, he became man. He was incarnate. That's a key element in understanding the faith.
Like fully human.
Yeah, like he died, and not only did he die, he suffered, and he suffered in such a way where he was lamenting his death. In this way, it's the idea that, okay, that's a true sacrifice. If God were mere soul, or if Jesus were mere soul inhabiting... Oh, thank you for that. Here we
Technical
are.
difficulties,
There we go.
people.
Sorry, I got my tech guys on this.
So what is this on?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. So what influence do you think like Neoplatonism has on either of those doctrines, that God is a soul?
Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate that. Yeah, no, good question.
Like
yeah,
not outpourings. That's not a very good word, but like
the emanation.
Yeah,
aspect.
emanation, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's I'm not going to talk if my face is being blocked. Trace. move that microphone, Trace.
Oh my God. Vain. You'll
like
see
I'm here for the
vain.
camera time.
You
I'm here for the
probably
shine.
think the song is about you. Don't.
I do.
It is. Everything's about you.
It's okay. Now the lessons are being learned finally.
That's what.
Yeah. So the Neoplatonic influence, I think, is it's crucial. Like it's undeniable. Obviously Saint Augustine identified himself as a Neoplatonist, and he was following along the lines of another noteworthy thinker in late antiquity / early medieval philosophy, Plotinus. Plotinus, of course, did come from a pagan culture, so he wasn't quite where Augustine was. Augustine was arguing for, again, the one true God, or monotheism. But yeah, the idea of emanation, it has to, for somebody like St. Augustine, again, RC, it's important to understand that the creation of the world is something that is not merely inevitable and far from arbitrary. It was a choice that could not have been, except were it not for God's love. And so what is traditionally understood in the Neoplatonic tradition as being, that's redundant, emanation, which is to say, whatever it is that creates out of necessity and doesn't choose to, in the same way that, like a flame will shed light or shed heat, even though the flame isn't trying to. It's not choosing to warm the room. It does so because of what it is. For early Neoplatonists, I mean, that's what God was. God was just this. It was a metaphysical principle that just kind of he sweats existence without trying. It happens, and it's inevitable. And it's like, I think Plotinus refers to it in one of the Aeneids as a fountain that doesn't end.
So it's almost like God is freedom, because God is what defines human existence.
You know what? I think that's an interesting way to put it, because like in today's class, we were talking about Jean-Luc Nancy, who's very different from Augustine. The way in which Nancy talks about freedom is kind of generating the possibility of existence. That's very much, in fact, how these guys thought about God. God is that which allows for life, but the allowance implies that it's a choice. And so when he chooses to become man and then die for our sins, a la the Roman Catholic tradition, it's out of love because he didn't have to.
Right.
Whereas for, again, somebody that's, pre-baptized Neoplatonism, God is that which inevitably creates. Does that help clarify?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting.
Guys, I'm offering classes, registrations open now, Monday through Friday and online.
I can even say.
Enroll. Where did I come from, you ask? Oh, it was the last installment in the Contemporary Issues in Philosophy and Religion lecture series, where we just watched Professor Lucas Ulrich deliver an excellent presentation on a contemporary phenomenologist named Sloterdijk, who talks about the phenomenology of spatial community. Yes, I think he's some sort of Eastern European. Okay. Well, another successful derailing of the conversation.
You killed the room, Manzi. Killing it.
It's 3:00 anyway.
It is 2:57. We have 3 minutes left.
Actually, it's 3 p.m.
Damn it. On the air. I'm so sorry, Jack.
No.
It's okay. We were talking about religion. We could have totally meant something different.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Damnation. Eternal damnation.
Damnation.
That is my on-radio cuss word.
Son of a god.
Oh, that was good, Manzi.
The son of a man. Z.
That was pretty clever, actually.
Thank you for the last ever episode of Philosophy Club Radio. No, I'm joking.
Okay, well, that reminds me, we do have one more, I think we're
Philosophy
going to have
Club.
one or two more Philosophy Club. We'll know for sure
it should be
next
2.
week. I think so, too. I think we're probably going to do 2
If
more.
you don't show up during finals week, you're never actually a member.
Exactly. This is true. This is real
Why are you
commitment
throwing
right
me
here.
under the bus?
Ooh. I think
Shame. No.
the finals week one, it could be maybe more of a lighthearted topic, or
Like depression and anxiety
yeah,
and finals.
which is life for us. That's pretty much, yeah. Final causes and final grades.
Existentialism. Woo!
Existentialism.
Final causes and
It's life. It's life just a really convincing virtual reality experience.
It might be. It doesn't make it any less lifelike.
Mondays.
I think
Rainy days.
at the very least,
Tuesdays.
Sunday, Monday, happy day. I think at the very least we should give real consideration to having it be like a potluck or something,
Oh,
where
that's a good
people
idea.
bring in like goodies and foods, and when I say people,
Money.
I mean students.
Well, I noticed
Yeah.
that all of your fun ideas have to do with people bringing you food
And money.
in finals week.
Also, all my good ideas.
How do you define good?
I think that's a good idea.
Money.
Yeah, definitely have, obviously have Philosophy Club next week, but yeah, finals week, do something a little bit more fun. Yeah,
We can dress up as our favorite philosophers.
Myself.
Well, I'm saying you guys want to borrow my wardrobe.
Oh, hello. I'm coming as Professor Manzi today. I need to mess my hair up. Excuse me. Can I get my brush so I can unbrush
How dare
my
you?
hair?
I need to
How
shower
are you
once
not
every
my
6
friend?
days, and
I'm your best friend. You should be me.
Oh, that's true. I'm so sorry. You're more of a
Philosophers.
political person, though, not a philosopher.
Yeah, that's
ooh,
true.
she's
Shade.
reducing you.
Ooh.
You're more of a political pundit.
I'll take what I can get.
Me too, Cameron.
It is what it is.
I'll be Rene Descartes.
Descartes. Okay.
Descartes.
I'll be me.
That was a philosophical.
That'll be
my
me.
opinion.
What is me? Who am I?
Exactly.
What?
Sean Beltran.
Ah! 2.601. That's funny. Manzi's like, what is wrong with y'all? Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up then. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. You are listening to KDUX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We are the voice of Richland College. Views
Why'd you
expressed
get
on the
louder?
show are our own, unless otherwise stated. And they're actually Manzi's own, so blame it on him.
Shade.
Remember the new
Yes,
sign-off?
I do. I have it right here. Dang. I was going to surprise you.
Impossible.
What's the new?
Dang.
Oh, now that song is stuck in my head.
Monday. Happy days. Well, I said rainy days and Mondays. So I
Arthur
thought it was
Manzarelli.
What?
Arthur Manzarelli.
That's so funny.
Happy
Manzi.
days. Arthur Fonzarelli. You kids are too young.
I knew what you meant. I just didn't laugh. Do not reflect the opinion of KDUX Web Radio, Richland College, or the DCCCD. So, folks, we have a new sign-off here, and it is a direct quote from Jean-Luc Nancy's The Experience of Freedom. Are you ready for this? Once again, we touch the limit of comprehension. You're welcome. Signing
about
off.
That's deep.
Think about it.